Good morning, liveweatherblogs.com meteorologist Bob here for you with today's tropical update for Saturday, August 28th, 2010. Still watching our two systems today, Hurricane Danielle and Tropical Storm Earl. Quickly on Danielle, here's Danielle's forecast by the National Hurricane Center. Right now it's maximum sustained winds at 110. Its peak strength was yesterday. This has gone through an eye wall replacement cycle during the overnight, and once it comes out of that eye wall replacement cycle, it's going to be entering some stronger southwesterly shear. So it has peaked in intensity yesterday as a Category 4 hurricane. Right now it's a strong Category 2 hurricane, and you can see forecast track takes it well east of Bermuda and then out to sea it goes. Should be a real powerful, strong, extratropical system out here in the central Atlantic. Then we have Tropical Storm Earl. Maximum sustained winds now up to 60 miles an hour. Movement is to the west at 21. And here's the official forecast track. And it's been adjusted south through the day yesterday as Earl has continued on a west and a slight little bit south of west direction through the last 24 to 48 hours. This has pushed the northeastern Leeward Islands into the cone. Thus, tropical storm watches are in effect for the northeast Leeward Islands, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Martin, St. Kitts, and Anguilla, and such, right in this northeastern Leeward Island chain. Puerto Rico still looks like it's going to go north of Puerto Rico, but I would still watch this system through the weekend. If this shifts any farther south, you could get into a tropical storm watch as well. And this is because Earl will be growing in size as it starts finding this weakness and starts making that turn, and it could be a rather large system. So tropical storm force winds could extend farther south here. So we'll watch that. And again for Earl, and I'm going to show you all the variables in a minute here. How sharp is that turn going to be? This will turn. Florida, this isn't coming to Florida. So everybody in Florida, please don't think this is coming straight to Florida. This will make a turn. But how sharp that turn will depend. Will it come closer to Bermuda, or will it try to get closer to the Outer Banks of North Carolina? So that's going to depend how sharp this turn is, and I'll show you the variables. Right now I'm leaning towards the western edge of this cone, where I think it's going to go farther west, right in this area here. So it could come pretty close to North Carolina before getting shoved off to the north and then northeast. And then again, up the road, our Canadian friends in Nova Scotia, Newfoundland may have to watch this as well. So it'll just depend on how sharp that turn is. But he will become a major hurricane right in this area here. So it's going to get pretty interesting. Okay, quickly Danielle, and you can see we kind of had two eye walls here. We have a bigger one and then a smaller one. You almost could see it here on the satellite view here. And then once it gets starting to make that turn to the north, even if the eye wall replacement cycle is completed right in here, we're still going to start getting that southwesterly shear up here. So it has peaked in intensity, moving far enough west of Bermuda. Bermuda still could see some tropical storm force winds here and there, maybe, but this is passing far enough east where it's basically going to be a high sea and wave event for Bermuda. Okay, here is Earl, and you can see Earl, and I'm surprised this hasn't been mentioned in any of the discussions, but it's been kind of affected by a little bit by Danielle's outflow here, which is pushing it down. And that's what's kind of pushed it a little south too. And you can see not much outflow here across the northern half of Earl. But look at the beautiful outflow here to the east, to the south, even to the west starting up. And this storm is starting to grow in size. So once it gets away from Danielle's influence out in this area here, this thing's going to take off pretty quickly with its warmer waters and lower shear. So expect Earl to become a hurricane in about 24 hours, and then again once it gets to the northeast of the Leeward Islands there, just north of the northeastern Leewards, it could explode into a major hurricane. And here's the bigger picture, and this is showing you that outflow from Danielle right here, just kind of pushing down on Earl a little bit here. And it's just, you don't see much outflow here, but once it gets past this point in about 24 hours and gets into this area here and Danielle scoots away, prime area for Earl to really start taking off and become a hurricane. And then again, where does it go? Does it make more of a turn like this? Does it make more of a turn like that? That's still the question mark right now. Again, I'm more on the western edge of this, where I think it's going to come a little farther west. So it could put a scare into us along the east coast here, especially North Carolina. But again, a little far off yet. We'll have to kind of fine-tune that forecast in the next couple days here. Our first interest will be how close it gets to the northeastern leewards and even the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. Wind shear map, and this is basically for Earl. I mean, you can see Danielle will be hitting some of this southwesterly wind shear in the next 24 to 48 hours, and then it's going to just take off out to sea. Earl, you could see, that's that Danielle outflow here from the north. So that's kind of squished it a little bit. Once it gets far enough west in the next 24 hours, nice low wind shear, high sea surface temperatures, and Earl should take off. What's steering everything? Well, we have high pressure here to the north of Earl. That's been maintaining this westerly motion on Earl. And then we're going to have another high pressure right here. So what it's going to do, it's kind of like a goalpost. Earl's going to go right through the goalpost here. But where these highs position is going to depend on how far west or how far east Earl goes. If this high moves a little farther west, after Danielle gets out of the way, that'll push Earl more farther west. If this high stays farther east, then Earl will follow this kind of path. So it's going to really depend on the positionings of these two high pressures as to where Earl goes. And basically, Earl's going to be more steered by this high, depending on how far west it builds after Danielle moves out of the way and such. So that's really going to be the steering components. And then once it gets back up out into this area here, by the end of next week, then it'll be steered by a trough, and then, it'll get kicked out to sea. But then it depends how far that bend is, whether it affects anybody up here, even maybe brushes New England or Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and such. So we'll have to see how that goes. Models on Earl, and here we go. We'll see the big spread here. We have no gaps right here, and actually no gaps in Canadian have been the farthest east towards Bermuda. Then we have our cluster, and in this cluster we've had the GFDL and HWRF kind of in the middle. And then out to the east here, a lot of the BAM models. We've had the UK Met model, and the farthest west, which I'll show you in a minute here, is the GFS model, which brings it way out over here. So that's our spread right now. Again, I like this path right in this area here, possibly putting a scare into us across the east coast here, and then moving out to sea, and then possibly getting close to Nova Scotia and Newfoundland down the road. So that's my thinking right now, and we'll have to see how that pans out down the road, and we'll be tweaking this forecast as we go along. GFDL Earl, and here's Earl, becomes a major hurricane northeast of the islands here. You can see how close it gets to those islands. Woo, pretty close. And then again, it's kind of in that middle of the road pack where it could be a threat to Bermuda down the road. And again, once it gets up to about this area, we're going to start seeing southwesterly shear again. So we should see a peak in intensity right in here, and then gradual weakening as it moves north, but still a powerful hurricane, as we saw even with Danielle. GFS, so here's Earl right here, and you can see how close it comes to North Carolina, and then out to sea it goes, and then brushes by Newfoundland on its way out. So again, the GFS has been the farthest west. Kind of makes a little more sense to me, I have to admit. I just don't really see it really making that sharp turn. I really feel like this is going to go just a little farther west. Again, whether it really gets all the way to the U.S., that's to be seen now, but we still have to keep our guard up across the United States here, especially North Carolina as it sticks out here, and they receive plenty of hurricane hits over the years. Quickly, this is the Euro model, and we'll just show you this real quick here as this gets into motion. There's Danielle, here's Earl, and he's been... Euro has come a little farther west with Earl as it's going just west of Bermuda now. And then as you can see towards the end of the run, there's our possible Fiona. What that'll do, that's so far off down the road. Some of the models actually have it, including the GFS, actually have Fiona so close to Earl that it actually absorbs it. So we'll have to see. That's way down the road. We're not worried about Fiona right now. That's to be seen. And here's the bigger picture. Danielle, Earl, possible tropical depression here by the end of the weekend, and possible Fiona. And then finally some of the early run models on Invest 97L, which may be Fiona. Again, where does it go? Will it go out to sea again, just like the Danielle and possibly Earl going out to sea. We can't really make that assumption yet. Or does it move farther west down the road? Again, way too early. We're not going to make any projections on that right now. Let's worry about, we have Danielle getting out of the way. Let's forecast Earl, and then we'll worry about to see what possible Fiona does. That's it for today. Thanks for listening. I will have another tropical update for you guys tomorrow morning. Have a good day.